let's talk about Sporting KC in terms of their season preview. So, for the first time in over a decade, Sporting KC last season missed the playoffs and they finished with a record of 10, 8, and 16 and only had 38 points. They scored 49 goals, but they conceded 67 goals last season, which was by far the worst defensive record in the Western Conference. And if you would have told me that a Peter Vermees Sporting KC team would have a season where they concede 60 plus goal during that season, I would think you are just absolutely crazy, because all the time that Peter Vermees has been with this Sporting KC team, this team have never conceded more than 50 plus goal in a single season. And yet last year it was not the case. Not only not the case, but it was just absolutely abysmal to see the Sporting KC defense that just completely collapsed. And I get that they did had some injury concern and that they were kind of also in a little bit of a transitional period where they have a lot of defensive player that was aging badly, and they were trying to maybe make a smooth transition in terms of replacing the old core that they had in the defensive area. Yeah, it did not work out whatsoever, and therefore with a combination of injuries and trying to make a transition in terms of replacing some of their defensive core, they conceded 67 goals last season and had a goal differential of minus 18. Last season summary, as I mentioned, they missed the playoffs and they actually finished 11th in the Western Conference, which is by far the lowest that they finished in over a decade. They got knocked out in the semifinal of the CONCACAF Champions League by Rayados, and they basically kind of suffered the same fate that TFC suffered the previous season, where if you remember, Toronto FC went all the way into the CONCACAF Champions League final, lost to Chivas in that finals, and that we all thought that they were going to make a second half resurgence to get themselves back into playoff position, but injuries and also them never really kind of start the second half resurgence was the reason why they missed the playoffs that year. And it was the same case for Sporting KC. They had numerous injuries after the CONCACAF Champions League competition that they were in, and in many ways you would say that the CCL competition had really took a toll onto this team, and had just at one point they pretty much have like 7 or 8 guys that was really fit on the team to be actually in the starting 11, and the injury reserve was so bad that it was just incredible seeing a team that we thought they were very deep coming into the season now just look paper thin after they got knocked out in CCL. They also got knocked out in the 4th round of the US Open Cup, which I believe it's Minnesota. That's the team that knocked them out in that US Open Cup 4th round matchup. Now, in terms of the player that they bought in, obviously this offseason, knowing the fact that they just came off for the first time in over a decade of not making the playoffs, it's clear that they were being very aggressive in the offseason, and it seems like Peter Vermees was just not only talking to the front office about major changes, but he's also saying, you better open up your pockets because we are really going to go deep in this offseason by spending just tons of money to try to improve this team. And some of the players that they got this offseason to try to improve this team include Richard Sanchez, Roberto P, which I'm not going to pronounce his last name because, as I mentioned before, anytime when I cannot pronounce somebody's first name or last name, I'm not going to pronounce it until if I see the broadcaster or the announcer how to pronounce their name, then I'll try to attempt to pronounce this name, because if I just pronounce it straight away, it would just sound completely wrong, and I don't want to do that. So yeah, Roberto P is one of their their defensive addition that they got this offseason. Kyrie Shelton is also back with SKC, and Kyrie Shelton kind of had a Bill Hamid style of moments in these last couple of seasons where he decided to go to Europe, thought that he was going to do good things in Europe, and then it turns out that was not the case and he didn't get any starting minutes, and now he's back with the same club that he basically left to go to Europe. So Kyrie Shelton is now back with SKC after that one long year with, I believe, Paderborn in the second division of the Bundesliga. And the other big addition that they made, and probably the biggest addition that they made this offseason, is getting Alan Pulido from Chivas. I believe the transfer fee that they pay are either $6.5 million or $9.5 million. I still don't know to this day what is exactly the price that they pay. It seemed like those two transfer fees are the ones that is kind of in conflict of each other, because I heard some source says that they pay $10 million and around 9.5 to Chivas to get Polito, and then I heard some source that said they only pay like 6.5 million to get him. But either way, they spend big money on him, and they by far broke their transfer record by getting him and hoping that he is going to be that number 9 that they've been looking for so long for the past couple of years. And yeah, we shall see if that, of course, is going to be the case. They also got Amadou Dia, another player that will bring some reinforcement in the defense. They also got veteran Premier League player Winston Reid from West Ham to also improve their defense. And finally, they got Gatti Kanda as one of their players to improve the depth in terms of that defensive midfield. Now, players that they, of course, sold this offseason and didn't bring back from last season include Jimmy Madronda, Adrian Zadenhaus, Sef Sinovic, Benny Feilhaber, Jadino Zalem, Christian Nemeth, Nicholas Hassler, and Rodney Warless. All of these guys are no longer with the team. And some of these guys has been with SKC for a while. Sef Sinovic, obviously, it was kind of a big surprise, the fact that he was moving on to another club, because he's been with this team for pretty much his entire career. But it seemed like since last year he wasn't good enough, and especially there was one time last year where he actually got benched by Peter Remis and probably even got demoted to play with their USL squad, Park Rangers, because of the fact that he was not performing whatsoever with the team. Benny Feilhaber, they kind of tried to bring him back in to kind of enjoy the good old days, but didn't quite work whatsoever. And Christian Nemeth, another guy that they kind of brought back to kind of enjoy the good old days, and it did not work out whatsoever either. Now, in terms of the goal scored for this team, it's got to be Alan Pulido. And as I said, they might have finally found that number 9 that they've been searching for a while, and that Pulido, as I said many times before, I'm not salty the fact that the Quakes didn't get Pulido until if he started to score 10 or 15 or even score like 20 goals in the league. If that is the case, then yeah, I am going to be a little bit salty, and I'm going to be a little bit discouraged the fact that the Quakes did not snatch him up, even though every single source was basically saying that he was going to go to the Quakes. And then at the last minute, Sporting KC just swapped into this deal and got him probably for a less amount than the Quakes actually offered Chivas to get him, because I remember the Quakes offered like 10 to 15 million to get him, and SKC only paid like 9.5, and some source says that they only pay 6.5 million to get him. In terms of playmaker, I'm gonna say Johnny Russell, because he was the leading assist man, and he's probably one of their better attacking option, not only on the wing area, but also one of the most lethal attacker in this league. Like, you definitely do not want to leave any sort of space for Johnny Russell to exploit, because if you do, he's gonna punish you 9 out of 10 times, and most of the time he either score a wonderful goal or he's gonna put in a beautiful ball in the box for one of his teammates to tap into the back of the net. Now, in terms of MVP, this is where I kind of had some conflict. So I put Alan Pulido as the main MVP because I was thinking maybe he can score like 15 to 20 goals, and because of that, he's going to be the most valuable player for this SKC side. But then I was also thinking maybe Johnny Russell could be that MVP player because he is one of their best player on the attack. And I can even throw in Felipe Gutierrez too, who last season, believe it or not, he scored the most goal of this team with 12 goals last season, and he's a midfielder. Like, you do not see like deep line midfielder like Felipe Gutierrez scoring double digit goal, so maybe he could be the MVP. And also he's a decent playmaker and a decent defender too, kind of a very well-rounded player. So yeah, I'm kind of started to question whether or not I should have changed the MVP to either Johnny Russell or Felipe Gutierrez, but I'm just going to put Alan Pulido in there because They pay big money for him. They expect him to be kind of like what Dom Dwyer was a couple of years ago, be a lethal striker for this team, and we'll see exactly if that is going to be the case. Surprise package, it's got to be Gianluca Busio. I really love this kid when he started playing with SKC, and you can definitely see that he has potential to be a very decent player. Last year, at the beginning, he definitely showed that potential, but then gradually he kind of started to slow down a little bit, and I'm hoping him kind of slowing down isn't just a sign that his development is started to kind of slow up a little bit, but maybe it's just because I think since he had a good little run that he had in the beginning of the season, it's always going to be tough for a youngster like him to have the whole season where he's going to be performing like an amazing player. I mean, usually with young players, they usually either have some periods where they are really on form, and when they're not really on form, they kind of goes into a little bit of a slump. And this is where Gianluca Busio's probably the next step is going to have to take in terms of his career, where you are going to have to start to sustain some of the good runs that you have, and that make sure when you do have a bad runs of stretch, whether you're not scoring goals or you're not performing very well, that you need to try to find ways to get out of that slump. And if he can do that, then I think he can definitely be one of the players that you're going to have to watch out for the next couple of years, because this could be a very dangerous player in this league. What I like about this team, also going back to Gianluca Busio, not only he could be a dangerous player in this league, but SKC can also bring a lot of, they can earn a lot of money and get a lot of profit if they can develop this kid into a player that they can sell him off to Europe and earn a profit out of that. So we should also see if that is the case. What I like about this team, as I said, they finally might have got their true number 9 and finally got a replacement for Dom Dwyer that they've been searching for the past couple of years. I mean, for the past couple of years, SKC hasn't really been playing a number 9, and Peter Vermees, I think he's been trying so hard to not really have a true number 9 and rely on his wingers and central attacking midfielder, and in some case deep line midfield to be the guy that scored the goals for this team. And in some way, it's relatively successful for the past couple of years until last season, where, yeah, it turns out that you really do need a lethal number 9 to score you the goals. And I think bringing in Alan Polito, and again, them spending so much money to get him, they feel like he is going to be not only the answer for Dom Dwyer that they lost a couple of years ago, but he's going to maybe even be better than Dom Dwyer and be one of the most lethal goal scored in this league. Now, one big question that I have with this team is going to be the back line. And as I said in the beginning, last season, they tried to kind of do a little bit of a transitional period in the back line where, this core of this SKC backline is definitely aging badly, and coming into the season, I'm pretty sure they're still going to start 2 of their player that has been part of this main core of the backline of SKC. So guys like Graham Zusi and Matt Beazer, these have been the guys that's been in the backline for a long time, but they're also started to catch up to age. Beazer, I believe, is going to be turning 34 this year, and Graham Zusi I think he's now 32 or 33. I mean, these guys are kind of started to be in their twilight of their career, and SKC know that, so that's why they started to bring in some defensive reinforcement, that in case if those guys started to drop off a little bit, they can of course bring in some of these defensive players that they bought in the offseason and insert them right into that spot. The problem is, they tried to do that last year, and it did not work out whatsoever, and that the reinforcement that they tried to bring last year that they thought might be a good piece to bring in to construct the next core of the back line for this team, yeah, it did not work out whatsoever. And that, even though they brought in some good decent backline pieces, or at least from what I heard, they brought in some good backline pieces heading into this year. We don't know if these pieces that they brought in this year is going to have much better effectiveness than it is last season. But either way, one thing that I also will be certain with this team is that they're not going to concede 67 goals. Like, I just think last year, a combination of injuries and just them trying to transition their back line, and they thought that they brought in the right piece of player to replace some of their old guys in the defense, didn't quite work out whatsoever. So I think this year they're going to concede less than that, but it doesn't mean that that's not one of the biggest liability of this team, and that we shall see throughout the season how this back line is going to be looked at, and whether or not, if some of the players that they bought in the off season, are they going to be inserted into that spot. Like, I think right now the back line, Graham Suzy is going to still play in one of the fullback position. Center back partnership, I think Matt Beasley is still going to be there. Obviously, they might think about, I might think Roberto P might insert in there as one of the center back, or Winston Reed could also be in that spot because he's a veteran Premier League defender with West Ham, and he's been doing relatively well with that club for a very long time. But yeah, and in terms of the right back position, that's also kind of a question mark too, because they haven't really decided who exactly is going to fill in that role. So yeah, a lot of question that they need to ask themselves in terms of how to really construct a decent backline, how to construct a backline that was so decent a couple of seasons ago under this Peter Vermees Sporting KC side for the past couple of years. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. If you're an SKC fan, what do you think of the offseason edition and the players that is leaving your team this offseason? Who do you think is going to be the goal scorer, the playmaker, the MVP, and the surprise package? What do you like about this team, and what is one big question that you want to know about this team as the season is about to start? And by the way, the season actually is going to be starting just in a couple of days. As the time I am recording this, which is on a Thursday, we actually have 1 week left before the season start, but I think this video will be uploaded on Sunday, which means that we will exactly have 1 week left, or 6 days before the season starts, and I'm definitely very excited to see the season finally get back underway. I mean, it's been a long off season in MLS, probably one of the longest off season in MLS because of the shortened playoffs and the shortened season that we had last year. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.